case between the federal government of Nigeria and the detained leader of the Indigenous People of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, apparently took a new technical twist on Thursday after one of the lawyers of the detained Biafra leader, Paul Arraigns, San, presented and played 3 videos which the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja later admitted in evidence. The videos of former Nigeria Chief of Army Staff, retired General Theophilus Danjuma, saying, "Security operatives in the West Africa country, specifically the armed forces, are working together with the armed bandits to kill Nigerians," stressing that, if Nigerians depend on the armed forces to curb insecurity, they will all die one by one. Also that of Governor Hope Uzodinma of Imo State, saying politicians are behind killings in the state. Lastly, and the most interesting video played at the court to counter the testimony or statement made by the DSS prosecutor witness over Nnamdi Kanu-led IPOB founding Eastern Security Network, ESN, allegedly created by group of youths in the southeastern geopolitical zone of Nigeria, often referred to as Biafra land, to fight in self-defense against Fulani armed bandits or terrorists that were advancing and killing people in the eastern states during the era of President Muhammadu Buhari, was that of the Director General of the Department of State Services, DSS, Adeola Ajayi, who is apparently the government chief complainer in the case, and the DSS DG in the video recorded and published by Symphony News Media in February 2025, narrated how youths at Azare community in Katagum local government area and Tafawa Balewa community of Tafawa Balewa local government area in Bauchi state, when the DSS DG was the State Director of State Security Services, SS, resorted to self-help and killed all Boko Haram terrorists that came to attack them without depending on the security operatives. According to the DSS DG, when Boko Haram terrorists invaded Azare community, they started shooting and killing people. Then, the youths went after the Boko Haram terrorists and killed all of them, even when one of the Boko Haram terrorists named Khalid climbed a tree and started firing gunshots from the tree towards the people who were on the lower ground. The Azare people resisted and went after him and subsequently killed him. Although the federal government prosecution witness identified as BBB, who is a DSS operative, stated that the ESN is an illegal organization because there is no approval of government given to the people of Southeast to establish such a self-help group to defend their land against terrorists, unlike a Motecan security network in the southwest states that was approved and permitted by the government, also claiming his boss, the DSS DG in the video, was asking communities to build the first line of defense by thus working with security operatives, but a careful and detailed study of the DSS DG speech in the video shows that the FG witness, BBB, probably talked off points, totally off-key from the original intent and intention of Mr. Adeola Ajayi, the DSS DG teachings and advise in the video, who had said the Azare community people acted in quick response to an emergency situation, and the storyline indicated that the people of Azare prepared themselves. Edo State Governor, Monday, Okpebholo, has called for more stakeholders' supports and actions towards ending secret cult-related killings and other organized violent crimes in the state, stating that the aged-long secret cult war in the south state of Nigeria has driven away a lot of investors, and as such, Edo State has been at a loss of $1 billion every year, with statistics, according to the governor, showing that the natives of Edo State top the list of the highest diaspora remittances in Nigeria, but over 95% of the natives divert the funds to other states to avoid secret cult violence in the state, also known as the heartbeat of the nation. Governor Monday Okpebholo made through the office of the Chief Press Secretary to Governor Fred Ichua in a statement issued on Wednesday. According to the statement, the Edo State Governor, Senator Monday Okpebholo, has expressed deep concerns over the adverse impacts of long years of cultism on the state's economy, particularly the loss of lives and the loss of over $1 billion worth of potential investments annually. These acts of violence, predominantly driven by clashes among rival cult groups, have not only led to tragic loss of lives and property but have also discouraged investments and tourism, ultimately slowing economic growth. The Chief Press Secretary to the Governor, Fred Ichua, stated that the high spate of cult-related violence in the last 5 years, long before Governor Okpebholo assumed office, has caused substantial disruptions to economic activities, as investors and business owners increasingly grew wary of the security situation. What we have witnessed in Edo was more than a threat to public peace. It was a significant drain on our economic potential. According to statistics by the Diaspora Commission, Edo State tops the list of states with the highest remittance from the diaspora. However, 95% of the repatriated funds ended up in different states because of cultism and other violent crimes, as our people in the diaspora were scared of coming home to invest. This loss in disposable income, closure of businesses, and decline in tourism severely impacted the state's business climate, Ichua said. He noted that the state's critical infrastructure and commercial centers were also affected, with some businesses forced to shut down temporarily or permanently, owing to security concerns. The fear of violence also deterred potential visitors, resulting in a downturn in hospitality, transportation, and other tourism-related sectors. Ichua said the narrative has however changed, since Governor Okpebholo declared a total war on cult-related violence in Edo State. He said the efforts of Governor Okpebholo are already yielding results, with more stakeholders joining the support groups against cult-related violence in Edo State. Ichua noted that the state is regaining its lost glory and that sanity is being restored. He urged Edo sons and daughters both in Nigeria and in the diaspora to bring their investments home and help in the economic development of the state. Governor Monday Okpebholo is restoring peace to Edo State, especially in Benin City, where cult-related violence had held sway for too long. Our hard-working sons and daughters, both in Nigeria and in the diaspora, can now bring their investments to their home. Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has arraigned a staff of EcoBank plc, Solomon Stephen Ufio, for cybercrime after the suspect made deposit into one of the bank customers' account and later withdrew same without the consent of the account holder. The suspect was arraigned before a federal high court sitting in Lagos State last Friday with one-count charge of alleged cybercrime of impersonating the account holder, Ogunfodunran Omawunmi Ajoke, in violation of Section 22(2)(b)(i) of the Cybercrime, Prohibition and Prevention etc. Act, 2015, and punishable by Section 22(2)(b) of the same Act. The suspect pleaded guilty to the one-count charge and was subsequently remanded to Ikoyi Prison or Correctional Center by the trial judge. Details are presented verbatim below as reported by the Public Relations Unit of EFCC, including the report of Justice Muhammad Maina of the Borno State High Court, sitting in Maiduguri, convicting and sentencing a chief executive officer, CEO of a company, Alhaji Bashir Tanko, to 21 years imprisonment for misappropriation of money paid into the company's account by a petitioner who sought the CEO's consent and used the convict company's account to receive the money he was paid for an execution of contract. EFCC arraigns banker for alleged 2.4 million naira cybercrime in Lagos. The Lagos Zonal Directorate 2 of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Okpebholo, on Friday, May 16, 2025, arraigned one Solomon Stephen Ufio, a staff of EcoBank plc, on a one-count charge bordering on alleged cybercrime to the tune of 2,404,000 nairas, 2,404,000 naira, before Justice Yelam Bogoro of the Federal High Court sitting in Ikoyi, Lagos. The count reads, that you, Solomon Stephen Ufio, between the 10th to the 28th day of March, 2025, in Lagos, within the jurisdiction of this honorable court, while working for EcoBank Nigeria Limited as a relief teller, fraudulently represented yourself as Ogunfodunran Omawunmi Ajoke, by posting false deposit and withdrawal tellers on her EcoBank account number, 2,801,086,259, with intent to gain advantage for yourself and thereby committed an offense contrary to Section 22(2)(b)(i) of the Cybercrime, Prohibition and Prevention etc. Act, 2015, and punishable by Section 22(2)(b) of the same Act. The defendant pleaded guilty to the charge when it was read to him. Following his guilty plea, Prosecution Counsel, Abdulhamid El Takur, called on David Ngale Gahere, an operative of the EFCC, to review the facts of the case. Gahere told the court that Ufio, who is a relief teller with the bank, fraudulently represented himself as one Miss Omawunmi, a customer of the bank, by posting false deposits into her EcoBank account and moving the total sum of $2,404,000, which he filled out in withdrawal deposit slips without her consent and paid the same into his own OPay account. Following the killing of a 14-year-old boy, Kehinde Alade, by a stray bullet fired by policemen on hot pursuit of the vehicle conveying the deceased, the Oyo State Command of the Nigeria Police Force has made some clarification in line with video evidence that one of its men attached to Oyo State Traffic Management Authority, OYTMA, on Tuesday targeted and fired bullet to deflate one of the tires of the vehicle because the driver, who later was found out to be the father of the deceased, Odunayo Alade, drove the vehicle in a life-endangering manner, giving the police the room to suspect the dangerous driving to be an apparent act of kidnapping. Hence the police team gave the vehicle a hot chase and opened fire towards the tires of the vehicle, but the bullet missed and penetrated through the car booth and hit the student who was on his way to take the West African Examinations Council WAEC exam, with the deceased student's father, who introduced himself as a single father taking care of the kids since his wife allegedly abandoned and left them 7 years ago, confirming he actually refused to stop after driving against traffic. An eyewitness who was one of the occupants in the vehicle said they continued the driving for some moments even when the little boy screamed and shouted he has been shot, initially believing the boy and other kids at the back seat, who were also screaming, to have raised the alarm out of fear of the police until they saw the boy gasping. The incident occurred around 7 a.m. along the Ibadan Airport roundabout, Alakia Adalubi Airport Road in Oyo State, with the state governor confirming the suspected killer police officer has been taken into custody. The deceased student's father and the driver of the vehicle, Odunayo Alade, who spoke with TVC News crew shortly after the incident, said he was asked by a roadside tire mechanic or vulcanizer to drive the vehicle towards the other side of the traffic so that the vulcanizer air compressor hose pipe can reach the car. In a press release on Tuesday, the Oyo State Police Command spokesperson, CSP Osifeso Adewale, said, at approximately 7:45 a.m. along the airport roundabout, Alakia Adalubi Airport Road, an enforcement team comprising OYTMA officers and personnel of the Oyo State Police Command attempted to stop a black Honda Accord, Lagos registration number FST 639JJ, driven by one Odunayo Alade, male, father of the deceased young male, who was found to be driving against traffic, one way. Rather than complying with lawful directives, the driver allegedly accelerated towards the enforcement team in an attempt to evade arrest, ramming into two OYTMA vehicles and a police Buffalo patrol truck. In an effort to prevent further damage and harm to officers and other road users, barricades were set up to demobilize the fleeing vehicle. However, the driver reportedly broke through these barricades, continuing to drive recklessly and endangering lives. Given the nature of the driver's conduct, officers suspected possible criminal activity or a case of abduction. A police chase ensued. In an attempt to immobilize the vehicle, a police corporal discharged a firearm aimed at the tires. Tragically, the bullet missed and struck Kehinde. Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has alerted the public that it prevented the act of mass stealing of depositors' funds at Premium Trust Bank, PT Bank, after some of the bank staff conspired together with alleged intention to steal after allegedly agreeing with 3 other persons to manipulate the bank server and domain credentials to gain access to the bank customers' savings database. This, EFCC made known on Tuesday when the commission arraigned the suspects before a federal high court sitting in Lagos State for cybercrime and conspiracy to steal. Details of the report and the handing over of 753 units of houses recovered by the Commission at Plot 109 Cadastral Zone CO9, Lokogoma District, Abuja, suspected to be assets belonging to the embattled former Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN Governor, Godwin Imfield to the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development as presented by the Public Relations Department of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC reads below. EFCC arraigns bankers, 3 others for alleged cybercrime in Lagos. The Lagos Zonal Directorate 1 of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Awolowo on Tuesday, May 20, 2025, arraigned the duo of Kehinde Odeyemi and Matthew Adeniyi Damilola, who are both employees of Premium Trust Bank, before Justice Alexander Owoai of the Federal High Court sitting in Ikoyi, Lagos. They were arraigned alongside Samson Latchandakap, Bolaji Omatosho Yinka and Sunday Badeniyi Okanola on a 7-count charge bordering on conspiracy to steal. The defendants allegedly conspired to manipulate the server and domain credentials of the bank in a bid to gain unauthorized access to its database and steal depositors' funds. The planned fraudulent activity was, however, averted by the Commission. One of the counts reads, that you, Kehinde Odeyemi, Samson Latchandakap, Bolaji Omatosho Yinka, Sunday Badeniyi Okanola, and Matthew Adeniyi Damilola, along with individuals identified as Humble, at large, Waziu, at large, Isa Ismaila, at large, and another referred to as Victor Joshua Almona aka Oracle, at large, conspired unlawfully between April and May 2025 in Lagos, within the jurisdiction of this honorable court, to manipulate the access code. This included the bank's server IP and domain credentials of Premium Trust Bank Limited in a bid to gain unauthorized access to the entire database of Premium Trust Bank Limited for the purpose of committing an offense to wit, stealing from the bank's funds, and you thereby committed an offense contrary to Section 27 and 28, 1b, of the Cybercrimes, Prohibition, Prevention, etc. Act 2015, as amended, 2024, which is punishable under Section 28(2) of the same Act. They pleaded not guilty to the charges when they were read to them. In view of their pleas, prosecution counsel, Zinat B. Atiku, prayed for a trial date and the defendant's remand in a correctional center. Counsel to the first defendant, Adeleke Adepoju, urged the court to admit his client to bail. Former United States of America President, USA, Joe Biden on Monday issued a statement thanking everyone for the love and care messages he received since, on Sunday, the personal office of the ex-president announced that the former North America country president has been diagnosed of aggressive cancer that has spread to the bones, with Joe Biden saying in the Monday message that, "Cancer touches us all but him and his wife, Jill are strongest in the broken places." The news of the former president's cancer diagnosis has become a major issue in the United States, especially in the media, with a video of the ex-president comforting the daughter of John McCain over McCain cancer diagnosis during a televised TV show years back, and President Donald Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr. resharing a 2022 video of Joe Biden personally announcing that he has cancer, now trending on the US media space. Although some observers expressed displeasure over Donald Trump Jr. tweet accusing former President Joe Biden of staging a cover-up, after sharing a 2022 video in which the then president acknowledged having cancer, but his father, President Donald Trump, prayed for the successful recovery of the immediate president. President Donald Trump said, "Melania and I are saddened to hear about Joe Biden's recent medical diagnosis. We extend our warmest and best wishes to Jill and the family, and we wish Joe a fast and successful recovery." While the president's son, Donald Trump Jr. had said, "Joe says he had cancer 2 years ago and everyone said it's a gaffe. When he clearly had dementia, everyone said he's lucid. Now that he's no longer useful, they're all shocked that they missed it. Everyone was in on the cover-up. Who was running the country? We need accountability." That aside, former President Joe Biden expressed his gratitude on Monday for the love and support he and his family have received upon the news of his cancer diagnosis. In quotes, Joe Biden said, "Cancer touches us all. Like so many of you, Jill and I have learned that we are strongest in the broken places. Thank you for lifting us up with love and support." Dash Dobrovsky, founder of the Gen Z Perspective, in a tweet said, Joe Biden has been diagnosed with prostate cancer. Meanwhile, CNN's Jake Tapper and Axios' Alex Thompson are attacking Biden for struggling to answer questions about his late son Beau in a year-old interview. The mainstream media has no bottom. Morally reprehensible vultures. Dash added. Former US President Barack Obama said, "Michelle and I are thinking of the entire Biden family. Nobody has done more to find breakthrough treatments for cancer in all its forms than Joe, and I am certain he will fight this challenge with his trademark resolve and grace. We pray for a fast and full recovery." Immediate past US Vice President Kamala Harris said, "Doug and I are saddened to learn of President Biden's prostate cancer diagnosis. We are keeping him, Drive, Biden, and their entire family in our hearts and prayers during this time. Joe is a fighter, and I know he will face this challenge with the same strength, resilience, and optimism that have always defined his life and leadership." We are. Edo State Command of the Nigeria Police Force on Saturday says it has arrested the eyes or servant of the gods or Juju chief priest, known in Bini language as Owen, Chief Ovokanigbinnovia, the Owen of Okoromi with human skull allegedly found in his house, alongside AK-47 guns found with the said gang members of the dethroned chief priest, who was reportedly deposed as the Owen of the Okoromi community by the Oba of Benin, after series of allegations of land grabbing and alleged abuse of his administrative powers as the traditional ruler representing the Oba of Benin and overseeing the affairs of the Okoromi community. The police said it has made the arrests after the disturbed and troubled-looking Juju chief priest went live on social media to accuse one of the prominent former motor park tax collectors in the state, Anthony Arden aka Tony Kabaka, of using police to harass him, his visitors and family members, while at the time debunking the state media reports that he has been suspended or removed as the Owen of Okoromi, saying he went to the palace of the Benin monarch. He was told he has not been dethroned or suspended. According to the police statement, the Edo State Command, in a sting operation carried out by operatives of the Command Intelligence and Rapid Response Squad alongside the Anti-Kidnapping Squad today the 17th of May 2025, arrested the recently dethroned Owen of Okoromi, one Ovokanigbinnovia Kelvin, 43 years, Osa Rodion Omoregie, 41 years, Charles Otasoya, 55 years, Edwin Igbinovia, 45 years, and Asagie Igbinovia, 44 years. The following exhibits: 2 Acct-47 rifles with breech numbers TH-4782 and 6683 respectively, 2 single-barrel locally made shotguns, 3 empty AK-47 magazines, 1 OFM magazine, 11 rounds of 7.62 mm ammunition and a suspected human skull were recovered from the premises of Ovokanigbinnovia Kelvin, the dethroned Owen of Okoromi, when search was conducted. The investigation is ongoing to recover other arms and ammunition in his possession and arrest his fleeing gang members. CP Monday Agbonika, FDC, assures the general public that the command would not be deterred or distracted in its resolve to rid the state of all forms of crimes and criminality. CSP Moses Yamu, the Edo Police Command spokesperson, stated.
Tony Kabaka, you are not the owner for Okoromi. I have not been suspended. Also, I have not also been suspended as the owner. I have not been suspended. Look at my kids. You people should come. Let the world see also. Let the whole world come to our rescue. Let Tinubu, President, let it come to our hand of Okoromi rescue. I don't have anywhere to go. I can't leave me and my children and my wife at home. Because Tony Kabaka, you know what police.
Drone strike fired by Russian army led by President Vladimir Putin has killed 9 persons, which included a full family involving the father, mother and the daughter, after the military weapon of mass destruction hit a passenger's bus at the Bilopilia area in Sumy region of Ukraine early Saturday morning, signaling the ceasefire peace talks held during the week at Istanbul. Turkey was unsuccessful. It was gathered that the Russian soldiers launched the strike using a Lancet UAV on a passenger bus near Bilopilia in the Sumy region with a suspicion of hitting a military target, killing 9 civilians and injuring 7 others. President Volodymyr Zelensky said are currently receiving treatments at the hospital. According to Zelensky, there are currently 7 wounded people in hospitals following a Russian drone strike on an ordinary passenger bus. The victims have suffered burns, fractures, and blast injuries. All of them are receiving the necessary medical assistance. Tragically, 9 people were killed. All the details are being verified. According to preliminary reports, the Russians killed a family. Father, mother, and daughter died in the attack. My condolences to all the families and loved ones. All the deceased were civilians, and the Russians could not have failed to understand what kind of vehicle they were targeting. This was a deliberate killing of civilians. Yesterday, as on any other day of this war, there was an opportunity to cease fire. Ukraine has long been offering this, a full and unconditional ceasefire in order to save lives. Russia retains nothing but the ability to continue killing. Pressure must be exerted on Russia to stop the killings. Without tougher sanctions, without stronger pressure, Russia will not seek real diplomacy. Yesterday in Istanbul, everyone saw a weak and unprepared Russian delegation without a meaningful mandate. This must change. Real steps are needed to end the war. We are expecting strong sanctions against Russia from the United States, from Europe, and from all our partners. Diplomacy must start working. I thank everyone around the world who is truly helping. Not with words, but with strength. Peace is essential. It may be interesting to know that the attack occurred just hours after Russia and Ukraine held their first direct peace talks in more than 3 years in Istanbul, Turkey on Friday. That has shown the meeting failed to produce a temporary ceasefire. The strike is the latest in a series of deadly escalations even as diplomatic talks between the two sides begin to resume. Commander Ihor Tkachenko, head of Sumy's military administration, confirmed, medics and rescuers have been urgently sent to the scene. Meanwhile, a local media in Ukraine had reported on Friday that Ukraine had repatriated the bodies of 909 soldiers who died fighting against Russia. The coordination headquarters for the treatment of the prisoners of war reported on May 16, according to Kyiv independent news media. The bodies of soldiers were recovered from Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, Sumy, and Kharkiv oblasts as well as from morgues in Russia. We had reported that the Ukrainian President, Volodymyr Zelensky on Friday has said that the Russia war in Ukraine was moving towards ending this week if Ukrainian President, Volodymyr Zelensky on Friday has said that the Russia war in Ukraine was moving towards ending this week if only that the Russian President, Vladimir Putin wasn't afraid of coming to Ankara, the Turkey capital on Thursday to have face-to-face peace deal talks with him in line with his own request for direct peace talks, which, Zelensky said made him to travel to Turkey in person, but it was a surprise. The Kremlin leader, President Vladimir Putin, instead sent a very low-level government officials to the Russia president proposed dialogue meeting in Ankara, although Russia and Ukraine have been wrestling for months over the logistics of peace talks with hopes of achieving such in the proposed Ankara peace talks. But days before D-Day, President Donald Trump of the United States, US had said that he sees no movement of Putin coming to Ankara until he and Putin get together, and according to President Zelensky, it was President Trump who told him publicly to immediately accept the Kremlin leader's proposal of direct talks. President Donald Trump, who since on Friday had left the Middle East back home to meet his new grandson after his daughter, Tiffany Trump, announced she gave birth to her first child on Thursday, said he will meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin, as soon as we can set it up, to discuss Ukraine-Russia peace talks. According to Zelensky, I addressed the European Political Community Summit. This week, we had a real chance to move toward ending the war. If only Putin hadn't been afraid to come to Turkey. I was there ready for a direct meeting with him to resolve all key issues. He didn't agree to anything. I spoke with President Donald Trump together with President Macron, Federal Chancellor Merz, Prime Ministers Starmer and Tusk. We discussed the meeting in Istanbul. Ukraine is ready to take the fastest possible steps to bring real peace, and it is important that the world holds a strong stance. Our position: if the Russians reject a full and unconditional ceasefire and an end to killings, tough sanctions must follow. Pressure on Russia must be maintained until Russia is ready to end the war. Thank you to everyone in the world who is helping. United Kingdom, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer said, if Russia is unwilling to come to the negotiating table, Putin must pay the price. Speaking to President Donald Trump, we are closely aligning our response to Russia's unacceptable position. While ending his Middle East tour on Friday, President Trump said, I would actually leave here and go meet Putin. I do want to see my beautiful grandson. It would be recalled that Ukraine and Russia have not held any direct talks since March 2022, shortly after Putin sent tanks over the border, beginning the first major land war in Europe since World War II. But, according to Reuters, hopes of a major breakthrough appear unlikely, with US President Donald Trump declaring there wasn't likely to be any progress in the peace talks until he meets with his Russian counterpart. Nothing's going to happen until Putin and I meet, President Trump declared.
I know nothing about a delegation. I haven't even checked. Look, nothing's going to happen until Putin and I get together, okay? And obviously he wasn't going to go. He was going to go, but he thought I was going to go. He wasn't going.
Edo State government led by Governor Monday Okpebholo has issued an executive order, blacklisting a government-registered acclaimed sociocultural organization, the Neo-Black Movement, NBM, as a violent organization among those responsible for violent crimes of high rates of secret cult-related homicide killings in the state. And in a swift reaction, the president of the Neo-Black Movement of Africa, NBM, Olusegun Osayi-Kor, while speaking with a panel of presenters at Arraigns News Television during the TV program, accused the governor, Monday Okpebholo, of allegedly using members of the Black Axe confraternity during his election, adding that the governor never consulted with them to know if members of Black Axe confraternity are also members of the Neo-Black Movement, saying, the governor is now attacking NBM because of Black Axe, stressing that Black Axe confraternity is a criminal organization, insisting that members of the confraternity are never members of the NBM, and shortly after the NBM president's statement, large group of youths in Edo State led a solidarity protest march to the Edo State Government House in Benin City to express their support and willingness to defend the government policies and actions to stop the massive destructions of lives and creation of young widows and high rates of fatherless children in the state due to secret cult activities. This, assessments of some of the pro-government policy protesters indicated that some of them are people who may have identified themselves in the past as members of the Neo-Black Movement, and they also appeared to be people very loyal to one of the prominent leaders of the NBM, Anthony Arden aka Tony Kabaka, who trended when he was interviewed about the activities of the NBM in a BBC documentary published by the British Broadcasting Service some years back. Addressing the pro-government policy protesters on Monday at the State Government House in Benin City, Governor Monday Okpebholo said he will not listen to any form of blackmail and he will continue the fight to end insecurity in the state. In quotes, the governor said, yesterday, I addressed a peaceful rally by courageous Edo youths who, like me, are tired of the senseless killings and destruction caused by cultism. I told them what I'll tell you now. Every Edo life matters. If I had fallen victim to cult violence as a young man, I wouldn't be here serving you today. We will continue to act decisively. No threats, no blackmail, no fear will stop us. Buildings linked to cultism will be demolished. Criminals will be rooted out. And together, with the backing of our determined young people, we will reclaim our state. Edo must be safe, for our families, for our future, and for the investments and opportunities we seek to attract. This is practical governance in action, and it will not stop. Also on Monday, the state governor, Monday Okpebholo, through the office of the chief press secretary, Fred Ichua, said that Neo-Black Movement, NBM is involved in violent crimes in the state, hence he issued an executive order and revoked the certificate of occupancy of land. The NBM international headquarters was situated at Amagba area in Benin City, and ordered the demolition of the house. The press release reads verbatim, Edo State Government under the leadership of Governor Monday Okpebholo has explained and given wider clarifications to the new anti-kidnapping laws in the state, with specifications that friend or family member of suspected kidnapper or any person suspected to have made an attempt to kidnap, discovering such friend or family member to have hidden or provide a temporary stay or shelter to the criminal suspect, with complete disregard to the level of innocency such a friend or family member may be found to be in connection with the crime. The new laws stipulate 14 years imprisonment with no option of fine for such shelter provider or providers. The Edo State government published the clarification a day after the government demolished a house of an elder sister of suspected kidnap gang member along College Road at Aduawa area in Benin City simply because the suspect was living in the house, according to the news report as broadcasted by Okpebholo television, with additional information that the elder sister of the suspect is not living in Nigeria. She has been in abroad where she has been working and providing financial support to her younger brother who got himself into the crime of kidnapping business for a reward of 350,000 nairas. The Edo State government, while giving the clarification through the office of the press secretary to the governor in a news feature in which the chief press secretary, Fred Ichua, titled, A Step-by-Step Breakdown of New Kidnapping Prohibition Law in Edo State, said the new laws were with stringent principles to deter people from going into kidnapping and providing any form of aid to suspected kidnappers with a view to guarantee public safety and restore confidence in the law enforcement and judicial system in the state. In his words, the governor press secretary said, in Edo State, Governor Monday Okpebholo and members of the State House of Assembly are united in taking a firm stand against the escalating threat of kidnapping. The Edo State House of Assembly has passed the Kidnapping Prohibition Amendment Law 2025. This amended legislation marks a bold legislative milestone aimed at tightening the noose on kidnappers, their accomplices, and enablers. It reflects a sharpened resolve by the government to enhance public safety and restore confidence in law enforcement and judicial systems within the state. Under this amended law, the penalties for kidnapping have been significantly strengthened. In what is considered one of the most stringent anti-kidnapping frameworks in the country, the law prescribes the death penalty for anyone who is directly involved in the act of kidnapping where a life is lost. For cases where victims survive the ordeal, a convicted kidnapper now faces life imprisonment, a stern departure from lighter sentences in previous enactments. Furthermore, the law introduces a minimum sentence of 21 years for anyone who aids, abets, conspires, or attempts to commit the offense of kidnapping, reflecting the government's intention to criminalize not just the act itself but the entire chain of support behind it. Another groundbreaking aspect of the amendment is the provision targeting those who provide shelter, hideouts, or logistical support to kidnappers. Such individuals, regardless of whether they directly participated in the crime, are now liable to a minimum of 14 years imprisonment upon conviction. Edo State Police Commissioner Monday Agbonika has cautioned operators of point-of-sale (POS) to be careful while allowing men of the Nigeria Police Force (NPF) in unmarked vehicles to transact with them, with specific instructions that the POS operators in the state must henceforth demand and keep the official records of such policeman or policemen he or she decides to do business with, before initiating any financial transaction with the security operatives. The Commissioner of Police made this known on Thursday after he hosted a group of stakeholders in the entertainment industry in the state to a meeting held at the Commissioner's office on Tuesday, following the massive public outcry which include voices from some popular entertainment celebrities like Afua Gift Esohe aka Edo Princess, Lawrence Osrenko aka MC Casino, Badamosi Agbonjor Jonathan aka Edo Pekin among others who trend on social media the allegations of policemen constantly harassing and extorting money from young Nigerians in the ancient city, Benin City, the Edo state capital. The allegations apparently gave further sufficient strength to the virtual evidence of a white lady seen on social media on April 27, 2025 video recording group of policemen along the airport road in Benin City who allegedly turned official roadblock of stop and search to prevent crime into a criminal ambush of threatening to attack innocent citizens, probably to rob them at gunpoint by thus forcing them to pay them certain amount of money through the aid of a POS operator. Also during the week, the Commissioner of Police in Edo State held a meeting with the state resident Anti-Corruption Commissioner of the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, IOJ Primo, where both discussed ways to curb acts of extortions in the state. CSP Moses Yamu, the Edo State Police Command Public Relations Officer, in a statement made available on Thursday stated that the Edo State Command is aware of some social media reports alleging policemen involvement in certain acts of harassment and/or extortion in the state. In a deliberate effort to checkmate and arrest the situation, the Edo State Commissioner of Police, CP Monday Agbonika, FDC, has mapped out some steps, part of which was an engagement with social media influencers in the state held in his office on the 13th of May 2025 and directed the immediate reform of the anti-money laundering unit. CP Agbonika further directed that henceforth, 1. All policemen in the state, tactical teams, area commands, and other special teams, must have their name tags sewn permanently on their uniforms. 2. All unmarked vehicles used by the aforementioned teams must carry stickers on the front and both sides of the vehicle while on any assignment. 3. All POS operators in the state are to be cautious when transacting with police officers in unmarked vehicles. They must ensure the particulars of such policemen are taken for record and reference purposes before transacting with them. These are in addition to the immediate retraining of personnel across the state, including area commands and divisions. The Commissioner of Police warned that any policeman or team found violating these directives would be decisively dealt.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.